Call the regular City Commission meeting of Tuesday, May 8, 2012 to order. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we take roll?
Commissioner Bushy?
Here.
Commissioner Kuziak?
Here.
Commissioner Perry?
Here.
Commissioner Rubino?
Yes,
Mayor Castelli?
Yes, we're all here. Before we get into the agenda, I understand that the city manager would wish us to consider removal of item number 10 from the agenda. Is that correct, Sherry?
Yes, Mayor.
Item 10 had been a consideration of a resolution to declare a moratorium regarding accessory outdoor dining areas in the city of Pleasant Ridge. Is there a motion to remove item 10 from the agenda?
Mayor, actually, yes, I moved that we remove.
So moved.
So moved.
Support. Discussion. May we take a vote?
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Rubino?
Yes.
Commissioner Bushy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kuziak?
Yes.
Mayor Castelli?
Yes, motion carries. The agenda is amended. Next item is consideration of the following minutes. Regular City Commission meeting held Tuesday, April 10th, 2012. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, move the minutes for the regular City Commission meeting held Tuesday, April 10th, 2012 be approved as recommended.
Is there support? Support. Questions, comments, corrections? May we take a vote?
Commissioner Bushy?
Yes.
Commissioner Rubino?
Yes.
Commissioner Kuziak?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Mayor Castelli?
Yes, motion carries. Next item is the April 2012 monthly disbursement report. Amy.
Payroll and accounts payable was provided to all of you prior to the meeting. Payroll for the month of April was $54,753.91. And in accounts payable, we paid out $2,188,995.82. However, $2 million of that was an investment where the city moved money from one account to another, but we had to cut a check for that money to move.
And that was the investment to move to the fund operated by the county, is that correct?
That's
Sherry?
correct. The city commissioner approved that at the last meeting.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the April disbursement report be approved as listed.
Is there support?
I second that.
May I take a vote?
Commissioner Bushy?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Kuziak?
Yes.
Commissioner Rubino?
Yes.
Mayor Castelli?
Yes, motion carries. The next item is governmental reports, starting to my left. Commissioner Krzyjak.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to give a report on...
I'm sorry. I read the wrong one.
Yeah.
Governmental reports. Commissioner Zack.
No.
You have to wait for number 7.
That's all right.
Here, I'm in the standing room only section, so, hi, everybody. Helaine, Zack, your county commissioner till the end of this year. I don't know if people recognize, but we did get redistricted for the next map. I am losing Pleasant Ridge. The third lawsuit was found against us on last Friday where we had challenged the new map not being drawn well, but the Court of Appeals ruled against us. So, to continue, Detroit Institute of Arts. I want to thank everybody. I have heard from more people on this topic than I have in 10 years as county commissioner. And so I do appreciate, I've heard from many Pleasant Ridge residents, want to talk a little bit about what's going on. As county commissioner, we put ballot language on a ballot. And so there is an ask from the Detroit Institute of Arts to put a 2/10 of a mil ballot initiative onto the August ballot. And along with that, we would be creating an arts authority similar to the Detroit Zoological Authority. And then people can decide whether they like it or they don't. Vote yay or nay. Getting this onto the ballot is extremely controversial. I did write an op-ed, but I haven't been allowed to publish it because we have been negotiating things and we agreed not to play it out in the media. One of my concerns, and I don't know whether we have the votes yet to put it on the ballot, It did move out of the General Government Committee with 6 votes against 4 votes. And then it goes to the whole Board of Commissioners on May 17th. One of my concerns is that there are many county commissioners from the north, the west end of the county that are anti-arts, anti-tax, and they could vote against this issue and still have the majority vote when it comes to appointing the Arts Authority. And so they could vote for somebody who was anti-arts and anti-tax to oversee this millage. And I have to be assured before I vote yes, and I want to vote yes, and let the people decide that we're gonna have reasonable people sitting there. We're also trying to negotiate some other things on behalf of the citizens of Oakland County that I think will be really wonderful additions to this. For example, one of the things that I've heard loud and clear, how valuable it is for school groups or senior citizen groups to go to the Detroit Institute of Arts. But our schools can't afford the school bus transportation to get there. And so we're looking to the DIA to agree as part of our contract, our negotiation is to have a sum of money where schools could apply to get some transportation. They do already have some small funding for indigent school districts, but we want to know that other senior citizen groups and school districts could do that. And then we're also looking at some other ideas that will bring more services into the communities and also make the vote more attractive to people to vote yes. So those are some of the big issues. We're also looking at Oakland County.
If I could interrupt just for a
Yes.
second, so for all of Pleasant Ridge, the entirety of Pleasant Ridge, that would amount to about $24,000, divided up by whatever your share would be.
It's
At
about
2/10 of a mil.
$15 for $100,000 worth of home value. They guesstimate that it would be, that would be Pleasant Ridge, and it would be, Oakland County would be about $11 million revenue. And what the DIA has proposed to do with this revenue is to work on building an endowment over the next 10 years so that they will be self-sustainable. In the last year or two, they've been using the donation dollars to, fund them, but along with the state, this is the intent of this, is to, become self-sustainable.
Next item?
What?
Next item, you started, I interrupted you.
Okay, so one other thing that we're looking, a couple of other things that we're looking at is bonding out the Pontiac water, waste management system. And there were studies done that there definitely needs to be more water capacity on the Detroit water system and Macomb County. So this would allow the county to help run, again, Pontiac would retain the asset, but Oakland County would run that water authority and provide other services to both Macomb and pieces of Oakland County. So we're considering that. It won't, it'll be, the cost will be bonded out and paid for. It's not gonna cost us in our general revenue. Any other questions for me?
I'm sorry, was the vote for the DIA, that will happen on May 17th?
17th.
Okay.
What happened, in our Board of Commissioners meeting starts at 9:30 in the morning. General government was last Monday. It was so busy and crowded that they had to take the committee out of the committee room into the auditorium. And the auditorium, had 100 people.
Well, I know our residents can certainly contact you, right, and make their views known on this particular issue. Would you recommend calling other commissioners, or is there a number?
What I say when people, and I've responded to every email or something, is to lobby the Republicans in Brooks Patterson. That's where we need the votes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have a quick question,
I have a quick question.
but you know the rules.
Come on, George.
George Lango, 32 Oakland Park. If I can address that question to Commissioner Zack about the DIA thing. So in the event we create an arts council, does that protect the collection? Because there's a lot of talk about if the city of Detroit goes into bankruptcy or all the rest.
I have folders like this, but I can't, volumes of questions that have been asked. The art in the art museum is absolutely protected from the city selling it for assets. There's a multitude of legal, structure. We've been assured of that. And I've had conversations with multiple board members and some that sit on the finance committee. So there is nothing to fear that way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other governmental reports. Chief.
Mr. Mayor, Commission, with the CERT program moving ahead, we're looking at...
Chief Sullivan.
Chief Sullivan, turned up fire department, sorry. We're looking at getting into the system from Tech Radium called the IRIS system. It's an alert system, so I wanted to offer it up to the Commission. So if we go into emergency management mode, we can type into a computer any message and it'll come out in a voicemail, a email, or a text message to whatever devices you would like. So that way we can keep everyone informed in real time very easily, and we can also call up people so that we're able to get a hold of people when we need them to come in from the actual CERT team. So I'd like to offer that up to you. It doesn't cost us much. It's like $1.50 a head for years. So we're establishing a contract which will pass at the last meeting of May, and then we will be up and running. And we also will be able to push forward notifications, so I'll be able to look at a smartphone or a PDA or that and tell what units we have out and where they're located. So it's going to help us assist management and spread the use of the equipment to more appropriate areas rapidly.
And again, Chief, for people hearing this the first time, the brief background of this program.
The CERT program is a community emergency response team. It is a federally funded program. We're getting right now about 20% of our funding from them, but we have a couple grants out there that we should be getting more funding for them for equipment, backpacks, and emergency response equipment, where citizens volunteer. We train you in how to handle limited rescue, limited first aid, limited life-saving things. So anytime there's a major disaster, when the resources are overwhelmed, neighbors can help each other, and these CERT people can be out there, and then they will start feeding information into us, which is an important thing when you look at FEMA and state collections or a county disaster. If you don't have the right data, you won't get anything from the state or the county or the feds. So it's also how to collect that data in what we call a windshield survey, so that we have the right amount of data to say we're declaring a certain level of emergency, and we will also keep the records so that we will be able to submit for funding when that goes into disaster collections.
Thank you.
What?
Questions? Thanks. Any other governmental reports? Next item is liaison reports. Now, Commissioner Krzyzak.
You sure? Can I go? All right, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to report on the Rec Commission and our recent activities. I would like to thank everyone who worked hard at the appraisal and the Antiques Roadshow. It was a very big success. People really enjoyed it. On behalf of the Rec Commission, I would also like to thank Commissioner Rubino for his help in organizing and making that a success. There were over 130 items that were appraised, and items were of all variety. I know I shared a story with the Rec Commission. My wife and my son attended. I was unable to attend, I regret. But my son and my wife were scrambling the house looking for antiques. We don't have that many valuables laying around, and they found a ring that my wife's grandfather had given to her as a baby. I've never been appraised, but my son was very curious, and it sparked a discussion between my wife and her son and my son regarding her grandpa and his backstory. That was a discussion that was stimulated by this appraisal fair, and I think the value of this appraisal fair goes beyond just as a fundraising. I think it was a great opportunity for the community to come together and share with each other and share with their relatives, and get a kick out of finding out how much their items were worth. So by all reports, the first appraisal fair and the Antiques Roadshow were a big success. The community garden, another big success, opened this past Saturday. There were close to 40 gardeners in the lot right now. More than half of the plots in the garden have been leased. The unveiling of I don't know if you've been down there. There was a nice day on Saturday. We made it down there and got ourselves a little corner, and it was a great day. There was a lot of people out there. It was a great event, and I think there's a lot of hope for a big bounty out of the Ridge Roots this year. The citywide garage sale is Saturday, May 2nd from 9 to 4 p.m. Saturday, May 12th. Thank you. From 9 to 4. So please get your permit at City Hall or at Fort Ridge by Thursday. And final reminder, the pool opens May 25th at 4 p.m. And we hope to see everyone there. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Bushy.
Planning Commission DDA did not meet last month, but we did have a workshop that worked out really great. John Michelangelo held it, and it was really an exercise in question and answers, and held up charts and went through different exercises where you gained information. What do you perceive the business district to be like? What do you like about it? What you don't like about it? It went on for 3 hours. It was a great conversation. At the end, they came up with some great goals, some great ideas, and they look forward to implementing a lot of those. So I think it's a great start. That's about it, really.
Thank you. Commissioner Rubino.
Historical Commission met, and we are going to have the home tour on June 9th. You can buy your tickets at City Hall. You can buy your tickets here that morning. I think it opens at 10 o'clock. We are going to have a trolley that's going to have 4 stops. You'll be able to pick up a trolley, and you won't have to drive your car. Also, Taco Mama will be here, and I believe that the Garden Club is also going to have some goods that are going to be sold. We're not sure yet what that's going to be. But hopefully we have a good turnout. I believe we have 3 homes on each side right now, and with a prospect of having a couple additional, hoping to have 4 with additional gardens to tour. So we're working very diligently on that. The Historical Commission is working very diligently, knocking on doors and sending emails and everything else to get this done. A couple things are planned for this fall. One of the things that we're going to work off of the Antique Roadshow, we're going to have an antique sale, and we're going to meet with the Recreation Commission next month. The chairman, Mrs. Zupan, and myself are going to meet with the Recreation Commission and see if they want to do a combination Antique Roadshow and antique sale. We're going to try to do an antique sale this fall in September. The dates haven't been established yet. I've met with Scott. We've talked over some dates. Already talked to some of the dealers that I deal with, and they seem excited to come to Pleasant Ridge, and I think it'll be something very unique. Hopefully we can put all that together. So that's what we're working on. There's a Christmas thing we're talking about that I'll let you more as we get closer to Christmas. I don't want to talk about winter right now. It's just
Thank
too
you.
warm, so we'll worry about winter when it comes. That's all we got going right now. We're still working on the plaques for the homes that are over 100 years. We haven't made a decision on where we're getting them from, but we're working on that. So every home in Pleasant Ridge that is over 100 years will have the availability of getting a plaque for their home. So that's another exciting thing we're working on. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Perry.
Thank you, Mayor. With the Ferndale schools, there have been a lot of very exciting things. The Ferndale robotics team it's called the IMPI Warriors, had made it to the first robotics state championship and finished in the top 20 out of 193 teams. Kennedy Elementary School has now adopted an open classroom format for the entire school, which is the preferred format by parents. And, it's been something that parents, I think, have put a lot of energy into trying to make happen for a long time. On May 14th is the Youth Recognition Award Ceremony at the Kulik Community Center in Ferndale at 5:30, and everyone's invited to attend to to go and honor these students who really go above and beyond in community service and doing just really special things in spite of some hardships that they may face. And then also, the June Fair is coming up on Friday, June 1st at Roosevelt School. The annual event raises some funds for Roosevelt, as well as, it's for the kids from the middle school and high school. Choirs and bands will perform. There'll be games for kids of all ages and a dunk tank and a cakewalk and stuff like that. So it should be fun. And that's all I have. Oh, and transit, actually, no. You know what, I'm lucky to be on the transit committee. It's a really interesting time. It's the Woodward Corridor Alternatives Analysis Committee. And we partner with SEMCOG is actually leading this. And the SEMCOG Executive Committee has voted to allow the SEMCOG Executive Director to enter into a contract with Parsons Brinkerhoff for an amount not to exceed $2 million to conduct the alternatives analysis. And so this will all be rolling out very quickly now, like all of the early work has been done, and so it should be moving along quickly. Also on Friday, in Pontiac, they are having an awareness open house at the Pontiac Transit Center to help let everybody know sort of how you can use the transit to get to Pontiac or to go through Pontiac. It starts at 4:30. I think the discussions start at 5, and then there'll be an official from Amtrak. Carmine Palumbo will be there from SEMCOG, and there'll be an MDOT representative as well, and they'll answer questions for everybody. And that's it. Thank you.
Now, approving mass transit in Detroit quickly is a relative term.
Well, the study,
Studies with
yes,
the approval.
and it should be it's got good energy behind it.
Yeah.
The court process, as I reported the last couple of months, by state law, signed February 28th without advance warning to the communities. Our district court and the Berkeley District Court are dissolved and must combine to form one district court. The judges will all continue to serve until one becomes disabled, doesn't get reelected, dies, or gets aged out. Aging out means you can't run for reelection after you turn 70. So we will have, absent a reelection surprise, 3 judges in the court through 2020. The Berkeley building cannot hold 3 judges. The Oak Park building, with some changes and reconfiguring of people, can hold 3 people. Right now there is a group that's been meeting every other week, every 3 weeks, with lawyers meeting in between to try to hammer out a governance agreement. And the short-term goal is to come up with a governance agreement that really just runs through December 31st, because no one had any advance notice that this was coming. Budgets had already been prepared, on their way to being adopted, and the like. So for the time being, it looks like the Berkeley judge will continue to sit in Berkeley. The 2 Oak Park judges will continue to sit in Oak Park as people try to hammer out the economics. The current economics are that Berkeley, because it's a one-city court, gets to keep 100% of its fines. The Oak Park District Court, since it's a 4-municipality court, the host court gets 2/3 of the fines, and the city that writes the ticket gets 1/3 of the fines. Berkeley makes a profit of about $400,000 a year, and the Oak Park numbers would show a loss of $200,000 a year. So the negotiation, while we're all at the table, really comes around the budgets of those 2 cities. If agreement cannot be reached among the 5 cities, then at least as to where the court will sit and whether to go to the default rule, resides in the hands of the chief judge, who is Judge Apple. The default rule is the 2/3, 1/3. Other courts have systems whereby they split the cost based upon caseload, or they split the cost based upon 85-15 versus 2/3, 1/3. If we went to a split the cost by caseload formula, we would go from making about a $30,000 positive income to a $40,000 loss. If we went to 85-15, we would still be in the positive territory by about, I think, $18,000 or something like that. So it remains to be played out. At the last meeting, there were words coming out of the Berkeley City Attorney's mouth as to why Pleasant Ridge and Huntington Woods and Royal Oak Township were even at the table, which at least two members of that delegation then reminded them that if the district judge signs the order, they're not at the table either. So that's where we are. I think regardless of whether we are 2/3, 1/3 versus a budgetary contributor, that we should always have a voice in the court. And if there's going to be a council consisting of appointees of all the municipalities, even those on 2/3, 1/3 ought to be there. Now, if they're not funding units from the standpoint of being at risk with their budgets, then maybe they shouldn't have too much of a voice on budget, but the efficient administration of justice is in all of our interests, and there's a court there to serve us. Sherry, we need to put on the agenda, I believe, for June, the ceding the small claims court function to the Oak Park District Court. Otherwise, we had to convene court.
Yes, it would be held in this room.
Yeah, okay. And that's all I have. The next meeting is what, Monday?
It is.
Okay. Next item, public discussion, items not on the agenda.
I was at the microphone already.
Somebody get up there, please.
Sure. George Michael, 32 Oakland Park. I'd like to address the commission, specifically Commissioner Perry, the transit study. In terms of transit policy, I had the ability to go to the TRUE meeting, Transportation Riders United, that's the regional advocacy group for transit, a couple weeks ago. Not a lot of elected officials were there. Steve Baker was there, Marie Donegan was there, and had great discussion at the table about the initial transit study. The initial transit study, which we were not a part of at the time, had some really cool recommendations, like dropping the speed of Woodward to 35 miles an hour, which we've been trying to do for, gosh, as long as I've been here. But one of the other ones is consideration of a road diet for dedicated bus lanes. And as you know, I've been an advocate for BRT for a long time as well. But when I was talking to Councilman Baker, he said, and the report would agree, they really have had no consideration whatsoever on non-motorized transit. And so the basic idea on a dedicated bus lane, and I've done this in Europe, is if a bus goes down every 20 minutes, that means for 19 and a half minutes, it's a vacant dedicated lighting suitable for bikes. And in Europe, that's like 90% bikes and 10% buses. So I don't know our opportunity to insert this into the policy discussion, but I really hope and wish that as they consider transit alternatives, they do non-motorized. That's got to be part of the agenda.
And I think I've been, we are not on the WA3 right now, and so there's some conversations that I am not 100% privy to. Like, so I'm not 100% certain of where they're moving with the policy. And some of it is that I know with the complete streets, that is something that they're very much looking at. What a document that I just received was very much talking about having, very dedicated bike lanes and non-motorized vehicle lanes and things that people could, as the whole streetscape is redeveloped.
Yeah, and the point to Councilman Baker on that, and he did it to me, is dedicated bike lanes have a right-of-way problem at every stinking intersection. The cross street has the right-of-way. The reason we paint lane lines on streets is because when you're biking on the street, the bicyclist has the right-of-way. It turns a 5-minute trip into a 20-minute trip if you do it on a dedicated bike lane, as well as all the capital investment to do so. So to the extent that we can merge these two plans, this is something that I'd always advocated when I was part of WA3. And I hope you could carry it forward.
Sure, I will definitely look into it and talk with Heather about it, because I've mentioned it, you had mentioned it to me before, and I think it's an interesting idea. I'm not sure, and I'd love to talk to you more about it, because I have a concern with children on bike lanes, on the bus/bike lane. It seems like a dangerous prospect.
I took my 8-year-old niece on a roundabout in London. It works, I'll tell you.
Well, I'd love to talk to you more about it. Thank you.
Other items not on the agenda.
Good evening. My name's Jimmy Angel, 137 Cambridge. This is my brother, Steve Lukasha. We sent a letter to the city regarding an issue, and I would just like to read that letter just as a brief recap. The letter was addressed to Ms. Ball. We're hoping that the city of Pleasant Ridge can help us deal with a contractor who obtained a permit under false pretenses and then refused to honor its warranty. On June 12, 2008, we signed a contract with B&L Landscaping to do work at our house at 137 Cambridge, Pleasant Ridge, Michigan, 48069. B&L did not pull a permit as required by your ordinance. Rather, B&L got Phil Pitters, who later told us he did the contractor a favor and pulled the permit for him. Clearly, B&L and Pitters misrepresented to both of us and the city their legal right to do the work. Neither Pitters nor B&L asked for a final inspection as required by your ordinance. Failure to do so is a misdemeanor. Our lawyer, Tom Lewan, talked to Charles Cooper, city attorney, who refused to hold either contractor responsible, claiming that the building permit had expired. There is no provision in the ordinance for the building permit to expire. To the contrary, the permit remains open until the contractor asks for final inspection. Please help us require those contractors to honor their contractual obligation, which they voluntarily falsifying the permit, failed to complete the work in a workmanlike manner, and asked for a final inspection. We had asked for time on the agenda. No one responded. We didn't even get a call to say there's a room for you on the agenda, we can schedule. We are only asking for your help to put a little pressure on a contractor that the city of Pleasant Ridge employs to come and fix our porches. We spent thousands of dollars with them. They'll be 4 years old in July. There's no reason why they should have imploded the way they have.
Sure.
I have discussed this with the city commission. I've discussed it with the city attorney and the building official as well. The permit was pulled by a contractor. We don't necessarily ask to see what the contract is with the homeowner, and it is not unusual for a contractor to subcontract work. The application was received for work on the porch, and there was an inspection completed on that porch, and everything seemed to be fine until 3 years later, the homeowner contacted the city to file a complaint on the quality of the workmanship of the work. The building inspector informed the homeowner that it would not be covered under warranty after 3 years, and that indeed that porch had gone through 3 winters, and some of the damage we just would not have any idea how the damage was caused. I think from there, the homeowners pursued some kind of settlement with the contractors, and that being Phil Pitters and B&L. And I'm not sure whatever happened with that, but apparently there was no satisfactory agreement to make any kind of repairs or settlement in that matter. I did explain to the homeowners that the city could not get involved in a civil dispute between homeowners and their contractors, and that was the case. when the attorney contacted Mr. Cooper, Mr. Cooper basically had a discussion with their attorney and submitted a letter of opinion stating that indeed this was an issue that the city could and should not get involved with, and that if there was poor quality and workmanship, it's something that would have to be pursued outside the limits of the city. I think that summarizes it. It's a pretty thick file that we have on this, and if there were something that the city could do to assist in this, we would do it.
Was there a pursuit of the contractor in court or otherwise?
Actually, that's not actually an accurate statement of what actually happened. We never did come to the city to complain about the workmanship. What happened was that we hired people to come look at the porches to see what type of repairs that we would need, and we were told on 3 occasions they're done wrong, they have to be torn apart and redone again. The strange thing was that one of the people that we called out because we saw his name out here doing so much work in the neighborhood was Phil Pitters, who also came out and told us the porches were done incorrectly, they need to be torn apart. We have an estimate from him to redo both the porches, and at that point we came to the city because we were like, well, before we spend all this money, let's make sure B&L did a final inspection on these porches. We get here, asked to see it, and find out that Phil Pitters pulled the permit and a final was never done. Never heard from Sherry Ball directly. That is not an accurate statement. Have called her on occasions, have sent her letters, lawyers sent letter, have never personally had a response from her. Also, besides that, the porches not being redone right now is because the length of time is that they're falling apart. We didn't again come to the city to complain. We merely came to see how we could be helped. The inspector came out from the city, told us they were done wrong. You'll have a copy of the letter that the inspector sent to the contractor saying he has to fix it or he's in violation. After that period passed and we started contacting the city, we were told, we're not involved in this. We can't help you, this is a matter you're gonna have to resolve in court. We're like, wow, we're gonna have to eat all this money, thousands of dollars to have this redone. Then we find out that, wait a second, the city can issue misdemeanor tickets to these contractors. The city attorney's letter said he was reluctant to do so. It doesn't say he can't, it says he's reluctant to do so. We're merely asking for our city to give us some support in dealing with these contractors who are still able to pull permits and do work in this city. We see their signs. They have complaints against them in the Better Business Bureau. And I'm not saying you have to do this, but a lot of cities, once a contractor pulls a permit and doesn't get a final, they're not allowed to pull another permit. We're simply asking for some help in having these porches redone to the way they should have been done, and looking for some support. And we're not being contacted by anyone. We have not been contacted personally by anyone.
Sherry, before you respond, have you pursued the contractors in court or otherwise on your own?
No, we have not.
Okay, thank you. Sherry.
I think I may have provided some of the correspondence between the homeowner and me. It was not, I don't think there was a telephone call. There might have been one telephone call initially. It was my decision to send the inspector out as soon as I learned of this complaint. And that isn't something that the city would have to do. That was on our time, at our cost, as a courtesy. Again, 3 years after the fact, there's not a lot that can be done. I understand that the homeowners want the city to issue tickets to these contractors, but I'm not even sure that there would be any recourse. It's Mr. Cooper, and if you think I did not respond, I do have the email correspondence that we had, and I also have the letter that I mailed to you explaining what and why the city could only do so much.
We don't have a letter from you, we have a letter from someone from your office saying that they were asked to respond on your behalf, if that's what you're referring to.
I'd have to look at my file, and I didn't bring it in, but I thought the letter was signed by me.
It may ask one quick question.
Then Commissioner Rubino, who raised his hand.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Frank.
I have a couple questions for you. First of all, I went to your house and I looked at it.
Sure.
I went the other day after I read the letter from Sherry. You're right, it's absolutely horrid. Whoever did that did a terrible job. And they built it completely wrong. The second thing is, did you contact the state licensing bureau and file a complaint about this particular contractor?
We haven't yet. I mean, that's the next step.
Okay, the other question is, was the contract for the porch with Pitters or was it with B&L?
It was with B&L.
So B&L was the original contractor hired and they subcontracted the porch work to
They're not
Pitters?
saying they subcontracted it, they're saying that Phil Pitters came and pulled it as a favor to them,
Well, who actually built the porch?
B&L.
But Phil Pitters pulled the permit.
And
Why would
to
that
say that this is, 3 years later, it was done as a courtesy, again, we didn't come to complain, we came to pull that permit. We were told by someone here at the city offices, hey, this never had a final done on it. Get somebody out there, get somebody out here to do a final on it. We were just in here out of curiosity. And then we're being led by the city down, this is what you should do, get a letter from the inspector, and then find out that, and we're also told when we were doing the work on our property, make sure you have the contractors pull the permit. If you pull the permit yourself, we were told this by city employees, if you pull the permit yourself, you are responsible if that does not pass final inspection.
Right, the homeowner becomes the
Right.
responsible party.
So we do what we're told, and we're looking for guidance on this and help in this, and it seems like for some reason, as soon as the inspector came out and sent that letter to Phil Pitters, and Phil Pitters called us and said, what's the matter with you? You're gonna give me a bad name in that community. There's gonna be a black mark on my business. Right after that, there was no other response from the city whatsoever. I'm not saying that they're related to each other, I'm just saying that's what happened. And then right after that, there was no communication that there was before that, like with the inspector. These are wrong. We're sending him a letter. You'll have copies of your letter in the file that she has. He has to fix these within 7 days.
Sherry, was there a final inspection?
There was, as I said, as a courtesy, we did send the inspector out, and also as a courtesy, we try to do whatever we can to assist the homeowner. It was Mr. Murray at the time, and he did issue the violation report. But and I don't know if he informed the homeowner because I wasn't there, I wasn't present, but it was clearly understood that if they don't respond to this, there's nothing that can be done because we are now 3 years after the work has been completed. Really, the problem with this is it's 3 years after the work was completed. So, there's no warranty in place, and call it a favor or call it whatever you want, we only know who is on the permit, and if they subcontract that work, we may not be aware of that. So,
We have a letter that was sent to us by the violation saying it's a violation, it must be corrected immediately. A follow-up inspection will be held on Monday, June 20th, 2011. The building official has issued an inspection report which details the follows: repool loose bricks and flagstone.
that's true, that's absolutely correct, and that was provided to the city commission.
Right.
But, like I said, the inspector did that really to try to assist you 3 years after the work was done, probably knowing full well that there was no way to enforce that.
Well, maybe the inspector was willing to do that because he saw that they had attempted to do other repairs on the porch, which instead of coming and making repairs with mortar, they put in a plastic. And between flagstone, that was very costly for us to purchase, and now instead of that, we have plastic in between, trying to hold them together. So it's not like we didn't do other things to try and pursue this. It's just that we did not know that a final inspection was not done at the property. Had we known that, this may have been one of
Sherry,
the first
again,
things we've ever
does the
done.
record show a final inspection was done at the property?
Let me ask the city clerk, because obviously she operates the building department. I did see an inspection form in there, and Dan signed off on it. I'm assuming that he did a final inspection, because that's what it says. I don't know how much in depth it was or what it involved, but, and while I'm asking you, Amy, didn't you not have conversations with the homeowners during this process?
Yes, I was having conversations with the homeowner, mostly relaying messages back and forth with Dan. And at one point, one of the homeowners had several questions about licensing and what happens. And Dan did a detailed letter and cited our city code, the building code, you know, specifically to questions that the homeowners had. In the file, normally there would be a final inspection written up by one of us in the office, and he would go out, the inspector would go out and do the final inspection. This inspection was written up by the inspector. So I can only assume, since the inspector isn't here, that he went out and did the final inspection. Is in the file, and it is his handwriting.
Okay, why were we told that a final inspection wasn't done when we were at the city, and why did the gentleman come out from the city and tell us that there was not a final inspection done?
Like the manager ball was saying, she was trying to assist you guys when you were having problems with your contractor.
But it's one thing
I came in to
that's,
look at the file, you told me the permit wasn't closed.
I showed you the final inspection. I said, well, the building official filled this out and told her that was the final.
No, Amy. There was no
That's not
final done on the form.
It's in the file.
Well, it could have been stamped after the fact.
No, it's in that, it's in
excuse
the
me.
building official's handwriting.
Was it stamped last Tuesday, or was it stamped last Wednesday, or was it maybe 2 Mondays
I
I
before that?
apologize for that. You know, it's very frustrating. We've been going through this for years now, and whether it's stamped final or not, you know, now we have somebody that's coming out and looking at the properties and saying, these are done incorrectly. One of the persons who pulled the permit for it. We are not getting any
Right.
assistance, and I hate to say it, but I keep hearing as a courtesy, the permits were pulled. You know, the inspection is supposed to be done, and if it's not done, that permit is still open. And even if it's not left open, this person pulled a permit for another contractor, which is still not proper to be done in Michigan, as we're being informed by our attorney. We asked to be on the agenda this evening so he can be with us. We're not well versed in the laws and what they are, you know, so we don't want to get into, you know, like we know this or we know that. But he's telling us that not only was a final not done, the final isn't done, it's still open, and Phil Pitter should not pull a permit for B&L Landscaping and be allowed to do that work.
Sure, you-
And our city should be able to
Frank
assist us
answered,
in this.
Frank answered the question.
Yeah, Frank.
How long was your warranty?
It was a year.
When did the problem start showing up?
The winter after '08. We were approached to have our house on the home tour, and I had called B&L to say the limestone trim on the porch had separated from the flagstone. So, David Angel, I think his name was, from B&L, came out, and then I didn't hear from him. And I said, you know, our house is on the home tour, I have 3 weeks, I really need you guys to come out and fix this. I then called Chuck Kellett, and I believe that Chuck maybe called them directly. That's when they came out and they did some sort of Gorilla Glue or some sort of silicone patching on, but it was just like an 8-inch piece of filler. So, and then we continued to call them all summer and never had any response from B&L.
Mayor, if I could,
Go ahead.
thank you. I guess I know you mentioned as far as what you would like to see this governing body do. You've talked about misdemeanor, issuing tickets. You've talked about asking that contractors not be allowed to pull a permit. Could you explain to me what you feel you would benefit by being on the agenda? Because I think, possibly that would be something that we could accommodate at a future meeting. If you had some reason to believe that there would be a benefit to that.
Well, to be honest with you, we didn't think we would get this far in the process this evening. We really came because we had sent a letter asking to be on the agenda, and there was no contact made with us. We thought, have we done something wrong? Is this not the proper way to be put on the agenda? Sherry did not return the phone call. The letter was sent to her. It was sent to the commissioners. And
Well, I've heard you say City Hall doesn't respond. I've heard Sherry say City Hall's responded. I've heard you say there's no final. I've heard two people say that we're final. You know, when people have contracts and those contracts are breached, that's why we have courts, that's why we have lawyers, and people who sign contracts tend to then sue the person that's responsible for the damage for the damages. Now, the contract could have provided for a 1-year warranty, could have provided for longer, depending on what you negotiated. The contract, the work may have been done per spec. The work may have been done per code, and just has resulted in something that is not what you thought it was. But it's your contract, not ours. It's your contractual rights, not ours. And most cities, most governmental authorities are, in Charlie's words, very reluctant, that may be understating it, to issue criminal citations to people to try to achieve a civil result for somebody that entered into a contract with them.
I actually agree with you. But what we're here for is because we've been asking for assistance and we're not getting any assistance, and that's why we're here. Like I said, we're not lawyers. If we would have been put on the agenda, our lawyer was willing to accompany us here because he's giving us this information. So if we were on, to answer your question, if we were on the agenda, we thought that this was something that would happen. We didn't think that we would even take up this much of your time this evening, to be honest with you. But the fact of the matter is, if you get down to it, that yes, there are things that the city can do to assist us. If I don't know if, the city has any influence to try to get these contractors to fix the porch.
So if the city were to issue a criminal complaint against the contractor and the city were sued for malicious prosecution, would you be willing to indemnify the city for the damages for malicious prosecution?
I don't even know what you mean by indemnify.
That means write a check.
Again.
That means write a check.
I understand that we said something that we didn't understand, but now you're sort of treating us as if.
I'm not, I'm asking the question.
I mean, we're simply asking for some help and some assistance. We've not gotten that help and that assistance. We've contacted several times, and we're not getting that help or that assistance.
Well, the assistance you've asked for is us for to go after his license or file a misdemeanor complaint.
Right,
That's the assistance you've asked for. What other assistance is there?
Well, we asked that someone work with the contractors to see if they would, be willing to come out and, look at the porches, do some repairs on them, make them the way they should be. There's never been a response to that. So when we didn't get a response to that, and we found out there was something further that we can do, we went the next step. That's why we're here in front of all of you. We're asking for your assistance. Can we sue them in court? Yes, we can.
And if you do, then they have to respond.
Right, but we're here asking you to also do what you're able to do for us as citizens of Pleasant Ridge who live in the city and look to you for our protection. And you tell us to pull the permits, and now we've done so, and we're standing here saying we have to spend thousands of dollars to fix a porch or 2 porches, and now we're being told, oh, well, we can help you, but we're reluctant to do so.
Sherry, was there anything to indicate that this wasn't the code?
No, and there has been correspondence between employees at the city, including the inspector and the city clerk and me. The problem, and I keep restating this, the problem that the homeowner faced is the first the city learned about this, even though they had work done in '09, the first we heard about this was in 11. So, and in my letter, and I don't know if it was signed by me, but it was certainly written by me, and in the attorney's letter, we cannot get involved in civil disputes. It would just be inappropriate. It would border on a conflict. It's just, as much as I would like to do more, I think what's not being addressed is that we did take as many steps as we could to try to assist the homeowners. Oftentimes, when a city inspector goes out 3 years after a job and issues a violation notice, the contractor is intimidated enough to do something. That didn't occur with this. But also the homeowners can take steps even besides court. They can call the State Bureau of Licensing and file a complaint against their license. You know, I feel like the homeowners want the city to intervene with these contractors, which is basically what they're saying, and we cannot do that. Especially because we have a relationship with one of these contractors.
I sympathize with you, I totally do, but from what I understand this, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, there was a permit pulled, the work was, did you have specific drawings to show what was supposed to be done? Because Mr. Rubino mentioned it, he went over there and said it was terribly.
We had a plan, but there weren't specific.
So there wasn't specific tie downs and that, because when I was talking, we had a meeting yesterday and Frank was mentioning that there was no, tie downs or?
They didn't tie the masonry together, that's why it's separating, there's no tie downs. When you put masonry together like that, because of the Michigan winters, you have to tie them together, and they weren't tied together, that's why all your bricks are falling apart. I didn't understand why they didn't do that, and my comment last night was, did they have a particular plan that showed the design of the porch and how it was to be constructed so the inspector had something to look at?
And I mean, if there was a permit pulled, and then it's not rare that someone subcontracts work within a contractor. I mean, if it's the plumbing, they bring a plumber in. If it's electrical, the contractor brings an electrical contractor in. So I don't. And then there was a final inspection done, and I know there's mixed emotions here. I mean, I would love to do something. What are you asking us to do? I mean, I don't understand. I sympathize with you. I understand there's a problem, but I mean, I don't know what we can do as a city commission. Honestly.
Well, to answer your question, I guess we would probably be asking to be put on the agenda so that our attorney can be here. We don't know the ins and outs of all this, so again, we're sort of standing here winging it right now with you as to what the law is, what the law isn't. We're being informed that the city can issue citations to these contractors.
Well, I would
based on what they
suggest this, we can ask to put you on the agenda, but I'd like to see your lawyer send a letter ahead of time instead of coming to the podium and telling us what the law is without having had a chance to send it to Mr. Cooper first.
A separate letter to Mr. Cooper, because I believe one was sent to Mr. Cooper, and he did draft this letter for us, so another different one.
Charlie, is there letters?
Well, the problem, and it was the same thing. I went over and I took a look, and it was a mess, and so in any event, the problem that we had is that 3 years later, we're trying to put all this back together again, and we look and we saw that Phil Pitters actually went out and he came in and he said he was going to do A, B, C, and D. Phil Pitters did do A, B, C, and D.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did. If you look at the permit and you go back, he did all the things that he said he was supposed to do under his portion of the contract. And so then what happened is that he went and called for an inspection. He got an inspection and it was passed. And at that particular point, what your lawyer says, okay, we want you to go out and arrest Phil Pitters. That's basically what he's saying is that he wants to issue a
the footings. That's all he did.
Our contract was with B&L, that's why you said people subcontract things out, and maybe they do, but our contract was with B&L to do the work. They had Phil Pitters pull the permit, but B&L did the work. So they had Phil Pitters pull the permit for them.
Did you look at the permit?
Yes.
Okay, what does it say? You got the permit there?
Footings for the porch and back porch and pillars, brickwork and porch cap.
Okay, and that's what he did.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
For the footings. He did not do any of the brickwork. B&L's guys did the brickwork.
Okay.
And
That's what lawsuits are about. That's what courts are about.
I understand that, but you're telling us that these are the reasons that you're reluctant to, help us any further.
Well, I'm not sure who we're supposed to arrest anymore, Phil Pitters or B&L.
Well, we're not asking you to arrest anyone. We take this as a pretty serious matter. It's thousands of dollars.
I don't disagree with you. I totally sympathize. Well, I mean, we need to resolve this. I mean, what?
Get an idea, I don't know if they'll look at it. Try.
What?
Have Lawan lay it all out in a letter. Every bit. What our
Okay.
power is, why things were illegal.
And how do we get placed on the agenda so in the future we know how to do this in case we want to go back with him? Because what we sent did not
There
give us
may or
that
may not be a need for that. We'd have to see the attorney's letter first,
Okay.
and then we could make a recommendation whether or not to place it on the agenda.
Okay, that's a start.
Thank you.
All right, sorry, gentlemen, if I was. Sorry, no,
Thank
no,
you.
that's what we're here for.
Other items not on the agenda. Mr. Neal.
Watch on camera, just stand right in front. Well, I safely made it to the microphone. John Neal, 23 Oakland Park. And what I wanted just to bring up very briefly was I really enjoy walking around the city a lot. And since I now have my Medicare card, I carry in my pocket, I've become a lot more of that old ad on TV about I've fallen and I can't get up. So where I'm going with this is we haven't had a citywide sidewalk program, at least that I can remember. And I admit my memory isn't that good anymore either. But there's a lot of really dangerous sidewalks in this town. And I know we don't have any money to do it, but I just want to throw it out there for.
During
for
budget
consideration.
sessions, we asked Sherry to start looking at working something up for the spring.
Good.
Too late for the summer.
Next spring.
Yeah.
Okay, I did, and
be
just
careful.
doing a little research, I found out there's a company, I guess on the west side of the state, at least one, that comes out with, I guess it's like these road planers they have, where they can actually grind it off the lifted part, and you end up with, you know, a leveled surface without having to replace the whole slab, which I thought was interesting, so just in your research, you might
If you want to
Check that out.
send that on to Sherry.
Yeah.
Actually, I can get it from city manager and village manager in Sutton's Bay is the one.
By the way, did I let you off without your name and address?
No, I did. I've been here before, buddy.
Thank you. You're welcome. Anybody else? Next item is the consent agenda. Sherry?
There are 3 items on the consent agenda this evening for the City Commission consideration. The first item is a resolution recognizing May 23rd, 2012 as Volunteers Recognition Day in the City of Pleasant Ridge. The second and third items are proclamations. The first declaring Saturday, May 15th as Police Memorial Day and the week of May 13th through 19th as Police Week, and recognizing the valor and heroism of all of our peace officers. The second proclamation declares May as Mental Health Month. My recommendation is that the consent agenda be approved.
Is there a motion? So moved. Is there support?
Support.
Take a vote.
Commissioner Rubino?
Yes.
Commissioner Bushy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kuziak?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Mayor Castelli?
Yes, motion carries.
Excuse me, Mayor. I don't know if it's proper, but I think these 3 items are very significant. I mean, they touch on 3 foundations that I think, or 3 citizen concerns that are very important to the community. And I would just ask if it would be proper to read them into the record. I know submitting them here, they're in the record, but looking through these, I think all 3 of them are very powerful as far as reminding us of the issues that they proclaim, and I would ask that they be read.
Amy, would you care to read them?
I mean, I can
Can I
read
use your
them.
copy?
Amy, would you care to read them?
The first is resolution, Volunteers Day, May 23rd, 2012. Whereas a basic ingredient and the foundation of this nation is the voluntary acceptance of initiative and responsibility by private citizens and voluntary organizations, and this fact is largely responsible for the progress and development of our great country. And whereas many citizens of this community contribute to the well-being of fellow residents and the welfare of all our citizens by giving tirelessly of their time and energy without desire for recognition or for personal gain, and whereas for many years these individuals and organizations have worked quietly, often unnoticed and unappreciated by the general public, now therefore I, Ralph A. Castelli Jr., Mayor of the City of Pleasant Ridge, do hereby declare May 23rd, 2012 as Volunteers Day in Pleasant Ridge, and urge all citizens to be aware of the contributions made by our service, organizational, and volunteer workers, and to participate in and support their various programs and projects.
Thank you. Would it be all right if I read this one?
Sure.
Is that all right? Whereas the Congress of the United States of America has designated the week of May 15th to be dedicated as National Police Week, and May 15th of each year to be Police Memorial Day, and whereas the law enforcement officers are our guardian of life and property, defenders of the individual right to be free men, warriors in the war against crime, and dedicated to the preservation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and whereas the City of Pleasant Ridge desires to honor the valor, service, and dedication of its own police officers, and whereas it is known that every 2 days an American police officer will be killed in the line of duty somewhere in the United States, and more than 100 officers will be seriously assaulted in the performance of their duties. Now therefore, as evidence of our sincere appreciation for our police officers and all others, the Mayor and City Commission are proud to proclaim the week of May 13th to May 19th, 2012 as Police Week in the City of Pleasant Ridge. Further, the City of Pleasant Ridge hereby joins with other communities across this nation to honor all peace officers for their dedicated service and call upon all our citizens to make every effort to express their thanks to our men and women who make it possible for us to leave our homes and family in safety every day and return knowing they are protected by men and women willing to sacrifice their lives if necessary to guard our loved ones, property, and government against all who would violate the law. In witness whereof, you, Ralph Castelli Jr., Mayor of the City of Pleasant Ridge, do hereby set your hand and affix the official seal of the city on this 8th day of May 2012, affirming the unanimous vote of the Pleasant Ridge City Commission.
Debbie, you want to read mental health week?
Sure.
Month?
Whereas 1 in 4, 25% of all Americans will experience a mental disorder that requires treatment at some point in their lives, and whereas stigma and stereotypes associated with mental illnesses can keep those living with such an illness from seeking treatment that can improve their quality of life and help manage the illness effectively, and whereas mental illnesses are a biologically based brain disorder, they cannot be overcome through, quote, willpower, and are not related to a person's, quote, character or intelligence, and whereas mental health is critical for our well-being and vitality as well as that of our families, communities, and businesses, and whereas the World Health Organization has found that mental illness ranks first in terms of causing disability in the United States and is the most prevalent health problem in America today, and whereas 1 in 10 children has a serious mental health disorder that, if untreated, can lead to school failure, physical illnesses, substance abuse, and even suicide. And whereas mental illnesses are common to all countries and cause immense suffering, people with those disorders are often subjected to social isolation, poor quality of life, and increased mortality. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the City of Pleasant Ridge hereby proclaim May 2012 as Mental Health Month. The Mayor and City Commission call upon all citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, and businesses to recommit to an increasing awareness and understanding of mental illness and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illnesses.
Thank you. Now, normally we would bring this home to the local level by talking about the foundation, and we will, hold on one second, Lauren. But Sherry, is there anything at the local level that you might want to say about Police Week?
Bunting,
Sergeant Bunting?
Wellesley.
Yes, I am absolutely proud to share a story of an incident that occurred yesterday. It's a frightening story, but it has a good ending, so I'll tell you that much anyway. The city received a telephone call from a resident who said there was a suspicious vehicle driving around town, driving slow and looking around. And he gave a description of that car. So Sergeant Bunting was on duty, and he was patrolling in the area where that person lives. About 5 minutes later, a 911 call came in through the dispatch that said there was a resident reporting a B&E in progress. And so, as it turned out, the police vehicle happened to be at the end of the street where the 911 call had been generated. And he noticed from a distance, from Indiana almost to Woodward, a car pulling out of a driveway near a Woodward property at a pretty quick clip. and he noticed that it fit the description color of the car that was suspicious. And so he went up the street, and when the person in that car saw a police vehicle behind him, he took off and a high-speed chase ensued. The sergeant chased him through some of the streets in just one residential street in Royal Oak, and then the wrong way on the service drive. I saw the video today. It was absolutely terrifying to watch this. Fortunately, the suspect spun out at around Stevenson and Guthrie, and he was just about to take off again, and the sergeant rammed our police vehicle into the door of his car so that he could not escape, and then, obviously drew his gun and arrested him. The most frightening part of this is that everybody should be aware, the homeowner that made the 911 call heard a loud knock at the door, didn't recognize the person, there's a window in the door, didn't recognize the person and didn't answer the door. He proceeded to knock even louder, and when she didn't answer the door, broke the glass out in the front door window, reached in, kicked the door in, and was standing in her living room as she was on the phone with the police dispatch. Because of that, we assume, and he told us later, because he realized that she was on the phone with the police, he fled. In the back seat of the car after the sergeant, while he was booking him and going through his vehicle, there was a laptop computer from the neighbor's house as well. So this is a person who was very brazen. It's a house just 2 or 3 doors off Woodward, the middle of the day, and it was the front door. So we checked on her welfare this morning, and she remained relatively calm, and through the entire situation was able to really assist the police, and she said she was much better today. So it was certainly a heroic action taken, and great, everything playing into the right time frame to make this not a tragedy. So kudos to Sergeant Bunting, and he'll be receiving a citation today.
Lauren Howard, 22 Oakland Park. I agreed with Commissioner Kresniak that these were important, and I don't know whether we post them at the rec where people could see them coming in and out, but it occurred to me that we might do that it wouldn't cost anything, and then people could see what the resolutions were and know about the important things.
Thank you.
That's a good idea.
I certainly sign enough of them, there's always extra. Next item is public hearing, solicitation of public comments on an ordinance to amend the Pleasant Ridge zoning ordinance regarding accessory outdoor dining areas. Sherry.
Mayor and City Commissioners, as you know and have been informed, there is interest by the owners of the restaurants in the city of adding outdoor dining areas to their restaurants. Currently, the city does not have an ordinance to specifically address this matter, and I will tell you that I did receive conceptual sketches from both of these restaurant owners, and over the last several months we have been developing an accessory outdoor dining ordinance. I solicited a number of cities around the state to see what they had and to compare with what would address the needs of Pleasant Ridge. I spoke to the city attorney about this, and it has been reviewed by the planning and DDA. I would tell you that there does not seem to be anyone who is adamantly opposed to this, but that it needs to be addressed on a case-by-case basis. And the approval plan is extensive. My recommendation is that the City Commission adopt this ordinance. It was introduced last month as required by law, and the public hearing was established, and that is an option for the City Commission this evening. And I will tell you that in addition to, once this ordinance is adopted, the steps are still involved where the plans would have to be submitted. They would be reviewed by the building official, the planning consultant, the MDOT, the police and fire inspectors and the city administration. So there are a number of things that would have to be done. The Planning Commission actually would have to hold a public hearing on the matter before making a recommendation on whether or not it should occur at any specific location.
And would it be a forever license or renewable annually upon the application?
I think it renews annually.
Annually, yeah.
Yep. That was something, like the liquor control ordinance, that was important to include, along with a fee schedule, which I'm not proposing this evening until we've had a chance to review what would be appropriate.
And if approved, again, if someone were to have a restaurant that said had a liquor license and applied for outdoor dining, they still would have to also comply with the contractual limitations and ordinance limitations as to liquor licenses as well, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
The ordinance addresses the ability to add outdoor dining to an existing facility or, one that may be coming in. And the liquor, serving liquor on the outdoor patio is a whole different beast, and that would you'd have to comply with the liquor control ordinance.
And retail is prohibited?
Pardon me?
And retail is prohibited outdoors?
Yes.
Okay. Open the public hearing.
All right, I will try to keep this short for you. My name is Jessica McCarthy, and I'm the owner of Mae's Restaurant. I'd like to offer you a little timeline of our process in speaking to the city about outdoor dining at our establishment. Early spring in 2011, we spoke with our city manager about installing a wooden bench along the Amherst side facade of our building that we could fold up at the end of the business day. The bench would provide a place for our customers who are waiting, which we currently do not have. We were told that we would be required to purchase benches that matched the ones found throughout the city. We requested a quote for those 3 benches, 2 planters, and a bike rack. When we learned that the charge for those items would be $12,000, I followed up with an April 20th email informing Sherry that we could not afford the requested amount for those items, and instead would like to know what steps were necessary to have a small patio for dining approved. On May 10th, 2011, Sherry provided us with a response. She said there have been, and this is a quote, there have been some concerns expressed about the limited space. However, everyone agrees that it's a great idea if space allows. I recommend that you submit a sketch/plans that shows the dimensions and or any other details, fencing, awning, etc., and please send over as soon as possible. Please include the size of tables and chairs and where they would be standing as well. Also, because the property is owned by Mr. Demos, he will have to submit a letter authorizing you to add the outdoor seating. On June 1st, 2011, I delivered all requested items, including a cover letter outlining the project, current and proposed bird's eye view drawings done to scale, a sketch of the proposed elevation view, and specs on the furniture that we wish to purchase for a patio. And on June 10th, I completed that package by providing a letter of permission from my landlords. On June 17th, Sherry sent me an email letting me know that she had mailed me out a letter regarding a permit for outdoor seating. And Sherry, maybe you can help me on this one because I lost my copy of that letter that I was mailed. So Sherry, if my memory is incorrect, please help me.
I didn't bring a file with me, John.
Okay, well, so I will say that it is
But
just
yes.
from my memory that in the letter, she had mentioned in part that an ordinance would need to be adopted in order to have a patio, and that she expected that would take about 6 months. Since we never heard more on the subject, I requested recently for our attorney to contact the city for an update on the issue. He spoke with Charles Cooper and was informed that the commission would be voting on a moratorium on outdoor seating tonight. When I attended last night's workshop meeting, I was glad to hear that Sherry had decided to strike that moratorium because she felt that our ordinances, as they were written, were going to be restrictive enough. And stated that the application process for outdoor dining would take 6 to 8 months. I believe I have met all of the criteria outlined in both ordinances 398 and 399, with the exception of a copy of my photo ID and a photograph of myself, because they were not previously requested. My concern is that as a small business in this community, that our governing body is not supporting the growth of my business. I'm not allowed to install a bench. It was impossible for me to afford city benches, so that customers would have a place to sit instead of waiting on the public sidewalk. And my request for a patio has now taken 10 months to have an ordinance voted on, and will take an additional 6 to 8 months to approve. This will put me in the year 2013 before I can have outdoor dining at my establishment. I know I sound frustrated. That's because as a wholly separate matter, but another example of why I'm constantly feeling discouraged when trying to work with the city and my business, I submitted a letter of intent for a liquor license in October of 2010. Since that time, Cork has had a liquor license approved, and we submitted an application based on all points outlined in the Sitter's liquor ordinance through our attorney. We were told that we needed a city-provided application, but the city did not even have an application created that they could provide me. That application was completed and sent to me on January 30th, 2012. It was 2 years after notifying you of my intent before you provided me with an application. My business, although nominally, profited in its first 8 months of operation. That's a great feat for any food establishment. On average, it takes 3 years before a business sees any profit in the food and bar industry. That number saw a 300% increase in 2011. Maze has garnered great support from the residents of Pleasant Ridge and drawn the attention of media outlets throughout our region. We need to be competitive with businesses in our neighboring communities that have outdoor dining. Some cities in Oakland and Wayne counties, in fact, require outdoor seating with the issuance of a bistro license. I was reading an article and found, for exact numbers for you, that Birmingham has 38 establishments with outdoor dining. Ferndale has 30, Royal Oak has 42, downtown Brighton has 21, and Ann Arbor has 95 outdoor dining spots. And a quote from the Birmingham planning director, Jana Ecker, says that when she arrived in Birmingham in 2002, restaurants had to seek a special land use permit and pay $2,000 just to put 2 tables on their sidewalks, because there wasn't as much political will to enhance business opportunities. And as the politics shifted, we brought in some of these ordinance changes and made it easier to add sidewalk tables, because outdoor dining adds a lot of life and activity to our streets. It brings more shoppers, and I think all of the activity draws more activity and also enhances the look of our streetscape. In conclusion, I have only 2 options for the continued growth of my business. Those options are outdoor seating and the increase in sales that a liquor license would provide me. But with both requests, I have found exceedingly long wait times before I can get any action from our government. Meanwhile, Cork operates with a liquor license. They were provided a bike rack and a parking lot, and the ice cream shop at the Sunoco has outdoor seating and has since opening. Why is it that other businesses in our community enjoy your support and we do not? I ask you to consider the benefits that outdoor seating can bring to our community and to help us become a destination in our own small town way. We have something truly unique in Pleasant Ridge, and when we work together to build thriving businesses, it can help draw not only visitors, but future homeowners to our town. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Other comments? Close the public hearing. Next item is consideration of the proposed ordinance to amend the Pleasant Ridge zoning ordinance regarding accessory outdoor dining areas and an ordinance to amend Chapter 18 of the Pleasant Ridge City Code by addition of a new division, Division 1, accessory outdoor dining areas. Is there a motion to approve both those items?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Support. Discussion. May we take a vote?
Commissioner Bushy?
Yes.
Commissioner Rubino?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Mayor Castelli?
Yes, motion carries. Next item is consideration of the schedule for the City Commission Coffee House meeting. Sherry.
Mayor, this item was briefly discussed at last month's city commission meeting. The memo on it is long, but just briefly, Commissioner Perry and along with Commissioner Krzyjak approached me some time ago and said that they would like to hold some kind of casual setting to meet with the residents on a fairly regular basis. As it turns out, there have been 3 meetings held, February, March, and April. I called them, tagged them coffee house with the city commission, and they're held at the community center. It's a workshop type notice, it is not an agenda, and both Commissioner Perry and I have discussed the requirements and restrictions of the Open Meetings Act. I am aware that Commissioner Rubino and Commissioner Bushy and Mayor Castelli have attended 1 or 2 of these. I'm not sure, but there is no one from administration, and residents are welcome to drop in anytime for coffee and a cookie. Mayor Castelli asked last month that the city attorney take a look at this because although it may be problematic when you have a quorum of the governing body in any location, especially when you're talking about items, business items related to the city, it isn't something that would be prohibited. It is, these kinds of get-togethers are held in other communities, and as long as the elected officials understand the Michigan Open Meetings Act and the requirements and limitations of that, there would be no problem with complying with that law. I have recently asked Commissioner Perry if this was something Mayor Castelli suggested maybe this should be held on a quarterly basis rather than a monthly basis. And I did talk to Commissioner Perry to see if this was something that was going to be considered or how, to address it this month. My understanding, and I'm sure if there's something different, you will share that among each other, is that Commissioner Perry and Krzyjak prefer to hold them on a monthly basis. And so, however you decide to do this, whether it's monthly, annually, quarterly, my only recommendation is that you establish the date and time so that the city can get these posted and put on the city calendar, so that it becomes at least part of the notification process for workshops and get-togethers.
And somebody has to take minutes?
As part of the city attorney's opinion, yes, he did recommend, as required under the Open Meetings Act, that someone not take minutes
Just take
verbatim,
notes.
Yeah.
just take notes and
But
file them with
basically,
the
it could
city
be
clerk.
very,
Very
very brief. In fact, I proposed a
Sample agenda.
sample
Yeah.
agenda that they could have. It would suffice. And whoever was there could fill it out.
Yeah.
Take them about 10 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, my thoughts are, one, Commissioner Krzyjak and Commissioner Perry can meet with anybody anytime they want. They don't have to be denominated city commission meetings or city commission coffee houses. In my viewpoint, if we had these 3 times a year, perhaps at the 3 times that are usually times of activity of the city, and we also included the president and officers of the foundation and the junior commissions and the major clubs, that would be a good community forum. My thoughts are September, January, and May. By September, we've come out of the summer months and things are starting to happen again. January is the beginning of the formulation of the budgetary process, and also the month after we have typically received and approved our annual audit. And May is the time period, depending on what day of the month it would be, between the setting of the public hearings on taxes and water bills and the like, and the actual holding of those public hearings. Secondly, anything that would denominate these as regular city commission meetings could have unintended consequences, and whatever these meetings would be denominated, even though we might might set a regular schedule for them, they should not be considered regular city commission meetings. If for no other reason than the charter says if you miss 3 regular city commission meetings, you're subject to forfeiture of office. So if these are held on a monthly basis, you miss 2 coffee houses and 1 Tuesday meeting, and you forfeited office. So that's my viewpoint. Also, I don't see any problem with people approaching us on the 2nd Tuesday of the month. It's worked for almost 90-some years.
Mayor, I appreciate your concerns. I like your idea of bringing the other organizations into the discussion. I think we could call those super coffees, when the gathering of all the other foundation and, you know. Yeah. I think you've just mentioned a concern of forfeiture of, you know, missing a certain number of days would, you know, cause you to jeopardize your seat. I would, you know, respectfully like to see that. I guess I need to, you know, I know there's a rule with the city commission, official city commission meetings, but if this was just coffee, are we under the same requirements?
If they're regular meetings, you could be.
Okay.
If there's more than 2.
Okay.
2
then-
what, commissioners?
2 commissioners, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to jeopardize anybody's seat on this commission. That wasn't the intent here. It's simply an intent to schedule opportunities for the citizens of this community to interact with their commissioner.